Hello, we on? Gotta check here. Yes, okay. So, the much anticipated story of how Cliff and I got from dating to married. You know, we've shared our story a lot, but we never seem to talk about this part of the story. We always talk about, how we were Mary and Joseph, and that's how we met, and then all this stuff happened, and then we decided to start dating. Because that's the cool part of the story. We never really talk about the dating part of the story. But I wanted to share it with you because there's so many things that I learned from dating, and I'm just amazed at what God showed me through it, and like things about like what it is to honor someone and have like boundaries in dating, to respect the person that you're dating with boundaries, was huge for me. With Cliff, he was amazing, and was how to communicate what I believed and actually have reasons and grounds for what I believe. When you have two people with two very different beliefs, these things, well, you have to have a reason for what you do, right? So I learned how to have like reasons and to have a backbone, and how to not lose my mind when I'm talking about stuff like that. Anyways, so let's just start from the beginning. So we started dating officially on June 28th of 2014. That was about 2 weeks after I graduated from high school. Cliff and I started dating. And in his culture, which they really, really highly respect and honor when a couple starts dating, when two young people start being a couple. It's a very serious thing. They don't just kind of dabble in it. So something that they do is when you become an official couple, you first you tell the family and all your siblings, and then, whenever you decide to, you make it public information. So we started dating. We went over to my husband's family, called his brothers and sisters and stuff like that, sister. But we didn't make it public for almost a month because pretty much right after we started dating, like a couple days later, I went down to South Dakota for 3 weeks. I was going to be just staying with the family there and doing some cool stuff. And yeah, since I wasn't going to be around, and I wasn't going to be able to like meet the people from his church and his friends and stuff, Cliff didn't want to make it public because it would be kind of weird since I'm like from such a different church background. He just wanted people to be able to see me right away when it became public that he was dating me. So we kept it quiet, which was kind of cool, kind of mysterious. But before I went to South Dakota, we had our first date, our first official date. And I was quite amazed with how this date went. So, like, we didn't really do anything fancy. I just went over to Cliff's house, his parents' house. We went on a walk, and we went down to this creek by his house, and we sat down on a rock there by the water. It's beautiful. And there were a few things that we did. First, he brought his Bible, so we read Proverbs chapter 1 together, I think. We read Proverbs chapter 1, and we talked about it, and we prayed, and then we talked about how we wanted our dating time to go. Now maybe that sounds weird, like, but we talked about, you know, how often we want to see each other, what kind of physical boundaries will we have, and it just like blew my mind at how intentional Cliff was about our relationship. Like he wasn't like dibble dabbling at all. He wasn't just like, you know, we're gonna see how it goes. No, like he really, really serious about our relationship, and he wanted to honor me and respect me and not play with my heart, right? So we talked about these things, like how often do we want to see each other. So we decided that you know, when I was gone, once a week we would have a phone call, and otherwise when I was home, like we wouldn't really chat during the week. We didn't want to be like totally distracted by each other all the time 24/7. But we would have a date on Sundays. One would go to his church, then he'd come to mine, then we'd go to his church, and then every once in a while we'd have a Sunday off. We would just like not see each other, and we wouldn't really like touch or like snuggle or like get really close physically, because that was just a boundary that we set. Sure, we would like when we met each other and give each other a hug before we said goodbye, but like we were we were not going to be loose with these physical boundaries, just because we wanted to guard each other's hearts. Or I mean specifically Cliff, like he's the one who brought all this stuff up. He wanted to guard his heart, and he wanted to respect me, and so we had these boundaries, and that just like was amazing to me, and it made me feel like so like special, because like wow, he cares for me so much that he wants to like honor me, and like oh, wow, it was like he was like a real man, you know. Real old-fashioned man. Anyways, so that was how we started our dating relationship, and that was kind of a theme throughout the whole thing. And let's see, there were many times while we were dating when we would discuss different things that we believe and why we believe what we believe, and why I believed what I believed. And honestly, conversations would be so hard for me, because Cliff grew up in a family where I don't know, I guess you could say they were like a little bit like harder or harsh or like straight, direct to the point. Like they weren't afraid of just like saying exactly what they thought and like challenging each other and kind of like, you know. But they loved each other, and that was totally normal for them. So like the standard in Cliff's family was to be direct and blunt and like stable, you know? Whereas in my family, we were a lot more like gentle, welcoming, loving, accepting, and like softer. So when Cliff and I started having these discussions, and he would ask me about like, why do you believe such and such, or like, why do you do this? Oh my goodness. Like, you know, in my heart, I felt like, well, that's just like the right thing to do, and God, and whatever it is, right? But to have like not just like a touchy feely reason, but like an actual logical reason. Oh my goodness, that was so hard for me, and my brain would just like zap out. It would just be like stuck. That's a bird clock, in case you're wondering. It is 1 o'clock. Anyways, but I'm so grateful for that. The way that Cliff challenged me, because it's not like he was me in order to push me down, but he was challenging me so that I could be able to stand strong on what I believed. And I've really really learned a lot from Cliff in that line, where it's like I don't need to be just like this soft pushover kind of person who's like flimsy, where I can't really stand my ground, I can't say what I believe, but I can be solid in that. And that's one of those things where I learned it while we were dating. And obviously it's grown a lot, like the more years that we're married. Um, One of those interesting things about dating, which I'm so grateful for. And so, like, we had conversations about our beliefs, but then there were times where our different cultures or different backgrounds would have like a clash. So we'd have conversations that were actually painful. We'd have to talk through misunderstandings or like a conflict that we had with each other because of our difference in background. And once again, I'm so thankful for the way Cliff handled these things. My default would have been like, I want to avoid this conflict. I just want to like, let's just like take a step back. Let's just like ignore this. Like, let's have peace. Let's just have peace, right? Is my version of finding peace was just like, yeah, let's just not talk about it. But Cliff's version of getting to peace was not to just shut down and shut up and like ignore the problem. His way of getting to peace was to press into the conversation, to like to really be able to like explain his side of things, like how he understands it, why he understands things this way, and then for me also on my side of the coin to share what my understanding is, why I'm doing such and such, why I believe this, or why it happened this way, and and for us to be able to see each other's perspective, fully understand where each other was coming from, instead of just like trying to shut up and keep peace, we actually went into that painful place and got all the details out, fully saw each other's hearts. So at the end of it, we could actually trust each other and love each other that much more. And when we talked about these certain things, like my perspective changed. Like I would have thought about this topic, this thing that we struggled through, or whatever it was, I would have had my perspective. But when I heard Cliff like fully share his heart on this matter, even though it was painful and it would have been maybe against what I thought, many times my perspective was changed or broadened because I allowed him to share fully. I didn't just ignore it, run away, but like, yeah, we pressed into that place of distance, and that is when you truly allow yourself to see into that person's heart, and then you can trust you so much more after. Grateful for Cliff in that way. I feel like that's one of the things that really set us up to have the kind of marriage we have now, and to be strong in our marriage and to love each other. It's awesome. So that was another thing that we worked through in our marriage, in our dating. And so yeah, like we have these long talks and drives and different things like that. And there's this one time in September. So we started dating June 28th. And so a couple months have gone by. In September, my brother Joel and I took a road trip down to Windsor, Colorado, to Ellerslie Bible School. I don't know I don't know what its official title is, but to Ellerslie, if anyone of you know what that is, where it is. It's a Bible school run by Eric and Leslie Ludy, and it's just like amazing, amazing, amazing teaching. So Joel had been there before as a student, and so this was an alumni reunion. It was a weekend thing, and I had always wanted to go to Ellerslie, so with her, had a great time, had some car trouble on the way down. We were driving, I think we were driving west of Bismarck, North Dakota, I think. And it's dark already, we're on the interstate, and then the car starts shaking a little, like, conk. So we pull to the side, goes out and finds out that one of his tires flew off. Like, literally gone. So he goes out there with, I don't know if it's his phone or, but can't find the tire. So we call a tow truck or something. I can't remember what we did. Maybe we just hitched a ride with someone. I don't even know. But we went back to Bismarck for the night. And then early morning, Joel. Sorry, getting my story mixed up here. I'm with Joel, my brother. He goes out in the morning with like a tow truck guy, and they find the tire. Apparently, some of the lug nuts were loose or something. Anyways, the tire just flew off, but it was all intact. Praise the Lord. So he could just put the tire back on, kept driving. But on the way up, like back home, we had some more car trouble. So fun. So we were driving in the Black Hills in Wyoming. So I was like up and down and whatever. And, all of a sudden the car just dies. Just dies. And so pull over. Eventually we start walking back. There was a town like right on the edge of the Black Hills in Wyoming. So we started walking back that direction, and then someone in a big drives by and like picks us up. He's actually a tow truck guy himself. That picked us up, which is so funny. Wyoming, and at least I think that's what the town is called. I don't remember 100%. And we end up kind of being stranded there for like a week because Joel is trying to fix the car, trying to figure what's wrong, trying to order parts, and yada yada yada. Eventually it's just like, okay, this is ridiculous. We just need to get home. So we were able to catch a ride with this tow truck guy to Rapid City, I think it's called. Rapid City, South Dakota. And then friends of mine, literally the same people that I had just been staying in like a couple months earlier, they came and picked us up from Rapid City. They live about like 20-30 minutes from Rapid City in a smaller town. And then Cliff drove down to pick us up. Isn't he amazing? Like rescue man. So we had a nice long drive up back to Canada with Cliff. I've had a few nice long drives with Cliff. It was great. This time Joel was our chaperone. Anyways, it's just a funny story that happened while we were dating. Anyways, so in the background of all of this whole dating stuff, I am preparing to go to China for 6 months. See, before Cliff and I ever started dating, even before we started like thinking about dating, I started making these arrangements to go to China to do a missions internship with a Canadian family who were living out there. And I I guess it all started like I had wanted to travel after I graduated, but I felt like I want to travel with a purpose. So then I heard about like being an au pair, and I was like, oh yeah, if I can like help with nannying or homeschooling or something like that overseas, then it's like I get to travel, but I'm also helping people. And so then this whole thing kind of materialized. I won't go into that big story, but I was preparing to go to China, and I was going to be going to China. So when Cliff started coming back into my life, I kind of had this thought in the back of my head that, you know, long distance relationships are really difficult. I'm going to be like in China for 6 months. I don't want to start dating someone because it'll be just like really hard. You know, just be like too hard for them, for me. It's, you know, easier if I don't start dating. That was my idea. Obviously, Cliff wasn't deterred by that. So he to date me anyways. And I'm preparing to go to China in middle of middle of January. So that's about 6 months in to our relationship. We've had all these talks and experiences together already, and long road trip, accidental road trip. And then it's hello?
It's me.
Oh, you're back.
I forgot something.
I'm at my grandma's house and she just got home. I'm on Facebook Live right now.
Oh.
Do you mind if I just keep going here?
Go ahead.
Okay. So fun. My grandma is amazing. Anyways, I have some notes here. So, before I went to China, Cliff and I had kind of like our last date before going to China, and we went to the city and we went skating together and just like had a fancy dinner. And while we were having dinner, he gave me this necklace that he had bought, which was two hearts that were kind of like intertwined. And so it was really beautiful, and it was just like, you know, a sign of his commitment and love for me, even though I was going away for 6 months. And so that was like wonderful. And then I went to China just about a week later. And being in a relationship and being 12 hours apart in your time zone is kind of a challenge. So what is we wrote weekly emails to each other to kind of like talk about things, update each other, and then about once a week we had a Skype call or something like that. And that's how we stayed in touch. That's how we stayed connected, and it worked pretty good until about a month and a half in. I was having a little bit of like conflict, like struggle with the family I was living in. It's like, it's not like either of us were doing bad or like wrong, but just having, you know, a stranger into your family culture can make things a little bit difficult. So like, we were trying to figure out how to live together over here in China, and then I was also like learning things and like whatever, just a lot of interesting new things and all this stuff. And I would tell Cliff about what's going on and some of the things I was learning and the things I had to like deal with in getting along with his family and living in peace while I was there. And it was all fine and good as far as I knew until one day when we were having a chat. Cliff brought up a concern that he had about me. So he was concerned about like the influence I was under there and the things I was learning, and I was talking about some things that I was really excited about, and he was kind of concerned about the direction that was going. And when he shared his concern with me, I was immediately like defensive and hurt. And I think I didn't take it very well. Looking back, I can see I didn't take it very well. But the thing is, when he brought his concerns to me, it was like, what? How can I trust your character if you're making such judgments against me? That's how I felt. I felt like, what kind of person is he? He's just like some ultra conservative, like, restrictive guy who's trying to, like, put me in a box and trying to, like, say that I need to be like this. Disclaimer, I was very immature and I Cliff. Just saying. But in the moment, this is what I was thinking. I was so hurt and I lost so much trust with him. And there was such a connect between Cliff and I, and like we were trying to communicate this whole, like, the one chat that kind of like threw everything out the window was it was not a face-to-face like chat. Obviously things went wrong. And so we were trying to like chat about it and back and forth, and eventually I was just like so frustrated and so like, I can't handle this. I pretty much told Cliff that I don't want to talk about I don't want to try to talk anymore until I'm home. Until I'm back in Canada. And I mean, I thought that would work pretty well because we had actually changed the arrangement, like me and the family I was living with. We actually decided that I'd just be there for 3 months instead of 6. So it was only going to be like another month until I got home anyways. And I was like, let's not deal with this. This is me going back to my immaturity of, let's not talk about it. Let's not deal with it. Let's just keep it quiet, keep peace. I couldn't handle trying to talk through things. And when you're in a long distance relationship like that, it's really hard. So I pretty much thought that we were going to break up. Like, I just couldn't believe that Cliff would have thought certain things about me, like that he would have those concerns about me. And I was just like, if this is the kind of person he is, like, I can't, that's just incompatible. It's just like, won't work. But I did have just enough maturity, just enough to decide that just talk to him when I got home. We would try to get an understanding, and if we broke up, we broke up. If we stayed together, we would stay together. But I seriously didn't think that we would end up together, to be honest. So I got home in about mid-April, I think. Mid-April sometime. Maybe early mid, something like that. And Cliff was in Mexico at that time, so he was going to be home in like another week or 2 or something like that, and then we would talk. So week or so of being home and dreading our conversation. And it kind of sucked when I came home, because it's like all the things that I had felt so strongly when I was out in China. When I came home, it like all crumbled. I was I got very humbled when I came home, to be honest. And it was very hard for me because it was just like all these things made so much sense back in China, but now I'm just like, what? Anyways, so I was majorly humbled when I came home or so. Then Cliff and I went and had a talk. We arranged that we would get together. We would just go out somewhere and we would talk about things. And he had like 4 or 5 specific things that had been like red flags to him that I had talked about in China. And so he had those 4 or 5 things that it's like, okay, what is your stance on this? And it's like so interesting to me that when we actually were together in person, face to face, talking about these things, the truth is we actually believe the exact same thing on 4 out of 5 points. The problem is that I was like stressing this side of it and he was stressing this side of it. Like we were looking at the same thing. We were agreeing about the same thing, but I was coming at it from this angle, he was coming at it from this angle. And so, you know, because of miscommunication, the disconnect with like long distance chats, stuff like that, it just seemed like we were totally like against each other. But we weren't, which was awesome. And after that evening, like Cliff left it in my hands what decision I would make if being in a relationship with him or if I would walk away and this would be it. And at the end of the night, you know, it was like, you know, it's time for him to bring me home, but he doesn't. But it's like you're torn, right? So he's torn, so he doesn't really want me to bring me home yet. So we're kind of just like driving around and we park in a parking lot and just kind of sit there quietly for a bit. And he says to me, and he's pretty much crying at this point, he says to me that like, you know, I totally release you to make whatever decision you're gonna make. And when I saw like how genuine his heart was, when I saw how genuine his heart was, and like I don't know, like his surrender, I really saw that he really did love me and he really did want the best for me. And like I just had such urge to just like, you know, just reach over and give him a hug. But I didn't at that point because, you know, I continued dating and there had just been this misunderstanding and whatever. So yeah, Cliff left it in my hands and I told him I would think about it, get back to him in a couple days. And you know, my knee-jerk reaction then was to just like say like, yes, let's keep dating. I want to be with you. But I knew that, you know, I want to make a wise, thoughtful decision. So I gave it a day or two and really thought about it, and I had peace that, you know what, we're not as different as what I thought we were. We actually are pretty much on the same page. So So we started dating again. I guess, I don't know, we never really stopped. But then we, renewed our commitment in dating and pursuing a relationship, and it was good. But then I had another problem. It's summer, and what's next for me? Am I going to go to school? Should I get a job? There was this opportunity for working at a Bible camp for like the spring summer like season, and I was wrestling with all these different things, like what in the world am I supposed to do? So when Cliff and I are having a date, I'm just talking about this, and I don't know, I'm probably like almost in tears because it's like, what am I supposed to do? I just have no clue. But Cliff knew in that moment what he needed to do. So he's like, let's go for a walk. So we took a walk. We were at my parents' on the yard there. So we took a walk, back to the back of the farmyard, onto the grain field, and he proposed. He's he didn't even get down on one knee, but he looked at me and he's like, I don't have a ring, but I can't even remember what he said. Oh, I wish he was here to tell you. I wish Cliff could tell you. I don't even remember exactly what he said. It wasn't like poetic or anything. It was just like, I don't even have a ring, but I have myself. I don't know. Would you marry me? And so that big question of what am I going to do with my life was answered right then and there. Of course I said yes. And then in 2 months about, we were married. And it was obviously very exciting, very wonderful time. And all in all, I'm so grateful for the way that our dating experience went, because if it had all been like perfect bliss, rainbows, whatever, I feel like I would have been less prepared for the reality of marriage. Is that yes, you get to have a partner to go through life with, to share your dreams and your heart with and your sorrows, and to be comforted by them and to be encouraged by them, and like, all these wonderful things. But you're still two different people, and there are going to be conflicts, and there are going to be misunderstandings, and there are going to be times where you have an expectation of your husband and he fails to meet that expectation. I mean, not that he's trying to be like rude to you or anything, but like, he's a different person than you are. And how can he read your mind? How can he know that this is what you're expecting? And even if he knows it's what you're expecting, maybe he doesn't want to do it. Maybe you're expecting too much. Anyways, I won't go on a soapbox there, but the skill of being able to work through our differences and talk about these things, come to an understanding, and in the end to trust each other more and to be for each other, like, that was powerful. And I'm so grateful for that, because I think the ability to having an open, honest conversation and to dig into the pain, to dig in instead of running away from it, has been quite possibly the most important key to success for our marriage. It's been really good. I'm so grateful for Cliff. And I'm so glad that we can be married for almost 5 years now. We're going on year 5. June 28th will be year 5 for us, which is so exciting. And that's about it. Oh, one more note. Remember how at the beginning of our dating life, Cliff laid out some boundaries for us. Well, guess what? We never kissed once until after we said our wedding vows. Can you believe it? I think it's pretty cool. I do not regret the boundaries that we put on our physical intimacy while we were dating. I do not regret it at all. Because then we could have peace that we respected each other. We didn't cross a boundary and hurt each other, and we could go into marriage so free and like innocent of heart that when we were married you can just like pour all your love on each other. It's awesome. Anyways, I'll stop rambling now. That is our story from dating to marriage, and that's it. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again later. Bye.